right, welcome to our fourth panel of the day. So as you've been coming to these panels, you've been seeing these videos we've been offering from different collecting clubs around the country. There are actually, besides these groups who are here at Celebration and have booths down in the exhibitor hall, there are also a lot of other clubs in the US and around the world. And I would encourage you, if you're interested in networking at a local level, to ask some of the collectors here about your area and if there are clubs, known clubs in your area. It's a great way to meet other collectors, and I view this hobby as a very social hobby, and having the more friends, the more networked you are with other fellow collectors, the better the experience is. So you find actually many collectors come to this convention, attend the collecting track, and talk to like no one. You hear these stories they'll post on Facebook how they spoke to nobody at Celebration. They just hung out on their own. And I really encourage you guys to reach out and find out about local collecting groups as one place to start, in addition to the online groups that are national and international. So our next topic is on grails. So this is so the term grail is one that is like used frequently in collecting. Some would say overused. Like I've heard of one guy who posted a grail every day. You can believe it or not. These guys have kept it to like real grails. So it's like 6 grails from 6 collectors. So it's going to be like a story. Really, the stories are the interesting thing behind them. So please welcome Brian Angel, Bill Cable, Todd Hudson, Yehuda Kleinman, Darren McLeese, and Ben Sheehan.
Doctor?
So you want to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, g'day, I'm Ben from Australia.
Hey, I'm Todd from Hawaii. Aloha.
I'm Mary Starn. Top of the morning to you.
I'm Yehuda from New York. Hello.
I'm Bill Cable from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. How yin's doing?
Be Angel, California, dude.
Once upon a time, there was an unobtainable treasure. It was an item so incredibly rare or valuable that our hero could not... Don't do that, you screwed it up. Okay, don't touch anything. You're
Dr.
supposed to
Yehuda to
interrupt
the rescue.
me. Okay, we're going to try that again. Take two. We should have practiced this part.
Brevity, yeah. When do I
Don't-
push the
don't
button?
touch
Is
the
it
buttons.
that button right there?
He's a doctor.
Once upon a time, there was an unobtainable treasure. It was an item so incredibly rare. You're supposed to speak up, interrupt me.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, what?
We had rehearsed this thing that we were talking about, but I changed some of it. Okay, yes.
Okay. Once upon a time, there was an unobtainable treasure. It was an item
This
so
is not-
incredibly...
Look, anybody could be watching this, Bill. We have to be very serious about what we're dealing with here, man. You know, what if Kathleen Kennedy was watching this right now?
You're right. We better do this right.
Are you a doctor, Yehuda?
Okay. I did not go as planned, but... See, this is why I say don't script yourself ahead of time, because it just goes to what... Okay.
We planned
Anyway.
that for seconds.
4 of us practice. Just saying.
So, first up we have Brian Angel. Come on, Red, let's go.
Thank you, sir. So I am a lifelong Star Wars fan. Since my dad and I saw the original movie in the theaters about 50 times the first year, and became a collector and an R5D4 lover since he came to me in a dream, and then in reality as a 5-year-old the next morning.
What kind of dream was that, Brian?
I'll tell you later. So, as we know, R5D4 is the hero of Star Wars.
It's a bit of a late.
Without R5D4, the story just stops and we all go home. So, it's really a story about love. I have a lot of love for R5D4, and I want to share that love with you here.
You're a very sick man.
I know. Yeah. The people have studied this. So, But in the vein of sharing, there are a lot of collectors out there that don't share or are afraid to put their face out there or which figure they collect. And so I have to say that, as some of you might know, I'm completely the opposite. I believe in putting it all out there. We all do this for fun. And since the era of Facebook, I do believe in connecting with all of you, and I think it's been a great thing for the hobby, especially for me. So let's move on to the first slide here on Come On Red, Let's Go. As we know, R5D4, as an action figure, like many action figures, has a variant. And again, another thing in the hobby that people debate, are variants good or bad? But this is really something that was personal for me, as long as I can remember when I discovered back in the day before Facebook, just on a Google search, which popped up a Rebel Scum page on a discussion about R5D4 variants, that there was this red bar, R5. And for those who don't know in the audience, there's an extra tiny little piece of paint in a in a bar on the top of the sticker, and that is something that again, it just enamored me back in the day. And so as the Facebook explosion was taking place, I connected with another R5D4 collector named Jeff Walters, and he shared with me that there was this red bar R5D4 on a Return of the Jedi card back. And that was super exciting for me, and so I decided to just put it out there on the Star Wars group and say, has this ever been found on a Star Wars card back? And the hobby did the most amazing and then some kind of bad things because of this post. I'll just get the bad thing out of the way, is that the price of that silly little thing went from probably like $30 to about $300 after the awareness was out there. But the great part about this was that friends of mine, and when I say friends, these at that point were, some of them were acquaintances but have now become good friends. They really searched their collections. Actually, I would say that there was thousands of people that day that searched their collections to say, do I have this red bar R5D4 on a Star Wars card back?
That's because everybody wants $300.
Well, no, we're talking loose is $300, on card, forget about it. You have to give up a child. That's why your sister's not here, dude. Sorry. Didn't mean to tell you. But, yeah, that's what I just said. So anyway, this was a cool journey of
His father's son.
Yeah. I am your father.
Are you sure you made the right choice?
I don't know, man. Not always. So the cool thing about collecting these red bars on the Star Wars card backs was that this 21A offer list for Joe Kiss and also the 21C secret offer, I should say Joe Kiss for the secret offer and then Matt Brookins for the offer list. I was able to trade them a figure from my collection each that coincidentally completed their run of every card, or every figure on card. Twice, once with a yak face, once with a Lando, in order to get these. So it was very meaningful for everybody involved. And then this thread, we're still on this thread, guys, and those two things were discovered, and then this kind of, legend came about of, hey, there's this 47 back that someone talked about at one point, one day, this R5D4 on 47 back, with, not even a Star Wars card, and I was like, that's just, that's a legend. And then Jeff Walters said, no, I have a picture of it. It wasn't a great picture, and he shared it on the thread. You can see it there in the photo on the left. And so, fast forward we go. This was just a legend, and it wasn't going to happen. So I kept on collecting, and I actually turned up another one of a kind, which was a Return of the Jedi with 9 Num offer, and again I had given up on the 47 back. So one day, out of the blue, as these friendships go in the hobby, a guy named Eric that I'm good buddies with said, I tagged you on a post. There's a 48 back Red Bar R5. It was really the 47. He wants $275. And as I mentioned, these things go for $300 loose. And, so I said, $275, no way, this thing's worth $1,500, $2,000, whatever it is. And so I just wanted to message the guy. And this was not on one of the main Star Wars Facebook groups. This was on an off the beaten path group. I didn't think he knew about a lot of the current happenings. And so I said to this guy, his name's David, wonderful guy. I said, hey, you need to take that post down. You need to do some research. What you have is worth a whole lot more than you think. And he said, yeah, about 50 people just messaged me. I said, yeah.
Is that what collectors normally do, Brian, or do they normally kind of try and play things down a bit?
I'll answer that one later. So,
Guess we got our answer.
Losing my train of thought. Sorry.
Come on, Red, go.
Come on, let's go.
So, in any case, this guy was a real gentleman. We spoke for actually months. And, he has a young family, and he was actually a really kind and considerate, but really thoughtful and researching kind of a guy. And again, putting myself out there in the hobby paid off, because when he was doing his research, he found an article put out by the Vintage Rebellion called Is Your R5D4 Worth More Than You Realize? And he saw my name and pictures of my collection in that article, and then messaged me back and said, are you this guy? And I said, yeah, that's me. And he said, wow. Eventually he came to me with a message that, in essence, said, this belongs in a museum, and that museum is you. And he said, I want you to pay me what it's worth, but also my daughter really, really wants a blue snaggletooth. Would you mind buying her a blue snaggletooth? So R5 came home, and in the interim, I sent him some money, and I sent him off to go find a blue snaggletooth. Guy goes to the local flea market and buys a blue snaggletooth for his daughter. So I just want to point out before I wrap up that this is the only 47 back. It's the only Empire Strikes Back Red Bar R5 that came about. It was a magical thing. I really enjoy owning it. What was even the most amazing bonus on top of this is that the blue snaggletooth that we send him to go buy for his daughter for $200 at the flea market, that turned out to be a first shot.
Karma working at its best, though.
And so the karma of this deal just continued, and he sold it, and it was a really meaningful thing for his family.
How much is a first shot worth, Brian? For those that don't know.
That one goes for about $5,000-$10,000 is what he found.
Wow.
And so first shot is a pre-production piece for those of you in the room that don't know. So of this guy's good karma, of all this sharing and giving in the hobby, it came back to him and it came back to me, and hopefully now it's a little bit of it has come to all of you.
Awesome story. Thank you, Brian. I'm up next, and my panel is called my chapter is called The Golden Grail. A little bit of background about me. I am a C3PO focused collector. And early on, I decided one of my goals was to pick up C3PO on every card back it was ever available on. So 12 back, 20 back, every mail away offer. I wanted a full run from Kenner, and then after that, picking up foreign stuff like that. So that was my main focus for collecting, was getting every single offer, every single card back for C3PO. And early on, I found out it was going to be kind of difficult because doing the research, it turned out that some of them were not easy to track down. In fact, when it comes to the Boba Fett offer on the 20 back, it does not exist at all. I did the research. There's actually the only piece that has the Boba Fett offer on it is a proof card chromalin that I ended up purchasing for my collection. But there is no production examples, no proof cards beyond that. It's the single piece in the world that has that Boba Fett. So I was never able to get that one on a card. Also, the Display Arena offer also does not exist. And I learned this because whenever I was starting out, it was a few years into the hobby, and there were some really dedicated people who were interested in getting the debut card back for every single character. So they'd want a Darth Vader on a 12 back, they'd want Yoda on a 32 back. So the very first card for every character is what they wanted. And everybody who did this realized that C-3PO, which should have debuted, the removable limbs version should have debuted on the display arena card. It's even on the back of the card, but no examples ever turned up. And it was kind of a mystery. A couple card backs existed in Peru on Bassa card backs. It was actually a Kenner card back with a Bassa sticker, but that was the only production ones that ever showed up. There's proof cards, and they're easy to get proof cards, and that's what I had to settle for, was a proof card to get that offer. And finally is the Return of the Jedi Anakin sticker offer. That one, there are no known examples, but it's entirely possible ones out there. It just hasn't popped up. So that's something that I've been looking for 20 years trying to get. So, which brings us to our story. April 9th, 2018, I was doing my daily eBay searches, and this figure pops up. And if you look at it, you can see it is the non-existent display arena offer C-3PO. And whenever I first saw this,
You're very excited. You're very excited.
I was very excited,
Very
yes.
excited.
How excited were you?
Very.
It was, first thing,
That's Bill's excited, in case anyone hadn't noticed.
Is Bill from Pittsburgh?
yes, I'm from Pittsburgh.
The Steel City.
Yes. So, getting back to my point, I actually questioned reality whenever I first saw this. I was like, that can't be real. Maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe it's the 45 back's common, and this is another one. And I was jumbled in my head. It was crazy. So I contacted the seller because if you look at it, it says Return of the Jedi Star Wars C-3PO on the title. So the first thing I did was I contacted the seller, made him an offer, and said, is this the figure in the auction, the actual figure, or did you pull the picture up somewhere and use the wrong thing? And he's like, no, this is the actual item. He bought it at a collectible store in Hong Kong. He was from Hong Kong, and he just picked it up to flip it. So after confirming that it was probably real, then he rejected my offer to buy it. He said he wanted it to play out on eBay. So then began 10 days of hell.
Yeah.
Because it was a 10-day auction, and I was going nuts over this thing. So I suffered from sleep deprivation. Honest to God, the first night I was trying to go to bed, and this was like 12 or 14 hours after I saw the thing. I was trying to go to bed, and I'd be close to nodding off. Then all of a sudden, my heart would just jump out of my chest and start beating really hard, and I was like, oh my God, this thing really exists, and I completely woke up. So I got zero sleep the first 2 nights because I was having like these panic attacks after realizing this thing. Oh, panic attacks is the next one. Panic attacks, yeah. After realizing, it hit me so hard that it was real. But I was really anxious for a couple days. Non-stop Facebook monitoring. My biggest fear was that somebody else was going to see this
I was sworn to secrecy.
and share it on Facebook. Like, oh, did you see this? And then I would be selling my car to buy this thing. So every 20, I was like all the time on Facebook making sure. And for days and days, I saw nothing. The first thing I posted, I actually started journaling to keep my head straight while this was happening. And I kept writing over and over again.
Okay.
It's been 3 days, and I haven't seen any posts on Facebook. And the other bidders, there were like 3 other bidders. They all were very high feedback bidders. So I was like, these guys know what it is, and they must be smart enough to keep their trap shut and not post it on Facebook. But I knew, so I said, like, even the few days before, I was like, there's like a 2% chance that this is not going to get on Facebook and go for crazy money. Non-stop eBay monitoring. I was refreshing that auction like every 15 minutes to make sure it was still there and check the price. And I was super anxious that the guy was gonna pull the thing. Neglecting visitors. This is when I feel horrible about.
You're horrible. You're horrible. You're just horrible.
The weekend between the start and end of this auction, I had visitors Sky Payne and Ross Barr both came to my house to see my collection, and both of them gravitated toward the Bossa card back because the 45 back Bossa card was such a ridiculous Grail item. So it would be the perfect segue to say, well, yeah, that's on eBay too, and we could have bonded. But I was like, man, if I tell these guys, and then the next day it pops up on eBay, I mean, I trust them implicitly. I love the guys. But if it got revealed after I told them, there'd always be this doubt in my head that they're the guys who spilled the beans, and then I neglected that.
Have we talked about how sharing on Facebook and the world is wonderful?
Yeah.
Bill?
You share after you get it in your hands, not before. So, and my stress levels were through the roof. It was, I was a mess. My wife had to suffer through it. My kids had to suffer through it, but it was a crazy time. So, the result, I decided to snipe this thing for $6,687.71 because I'm not a superstitious guy, but I thought Lemieux, Crosby, Malkin was a good number to go at for bidding. So that was my snipe bid. I was absolutely certain. I was going to just sell off all my common carded stuff to pay for it because I was going all out for
Like
this thing.
his house and his car and his common stuff.
The results, you can see I won it for $255. Nobody saw it. There was one other bidder at the end, and he actually contacted me on Facebook and said, I thought it was kind of a weird one, but he didn't realize how amazing it was. So
how much did you save that from your initial bid? You were gonna actually you sent him a message and you made him
I offered him $500 straight away, and then $1,000 after that, and
And what were you prepared to go to, Bill?
$7,000 roughly. Yeah. So whenever it arose, I gave the camera to my daughter. Said you have to record this so you can see me unwrapping it gingerly, and you can.
Has anybody seen Home Alone?
You could tell I was a little bit happy.
And sleep deprived.
Here's some, close-up pictures of it. I'm way over time. Sorry about this, guys. Strange thing about it, there's that black X over the bubble, and there was a lot of theories about that. I'm thinking it was like a factory reject or something like that it went to QC and they rejected it for some reason. And I posted it on Facebook, got thousands of messages, tens of thousands of hits to my website where I posted it. And for a week, I owned the only one in the world.
For a week?
For a week. Then the shop that the guy bought it from put theirs up, and they put another one up, and they put another one up. And the second one ended for like $2,500. The third one ended for close to the $3,000, I think. And then the guy who bought the third one contacted the seller, said, I will give you this much for every other one you got. You got to dig through your stuff. And he shipped back 3 more. I think at this point the total is 9 because I think Tom Derby, I've been told Tom Derby dealt a few from the dealer as well. So, but anyway, that's my story. Okay, you want that?
Hello, everyone. My name's Todd Hudson from Maui, Hawaii. But actually, I'm born and raised in Chicago, where as you can see, we have 4 seasons in 2 days. So it's what you grow up with, kind of why I'm in Hawaii now. So I've been collecting for just about 20 years now. My focus is really broad. Actually, I don't really have a focus. It's kind of more, it seems like I'm a little confused when you look at my collection. But it actually helps me to keep collecting all the time. So whenever don't have anything I'm looking for, something just pops up on eBay, say, yeah, that's kind of cool, and I'll buy it. So it's a fun way to collect, but obviously I don't have the stressful nights when these two have when something rare comes up. Oh, I forgot about this thing. So, what does a tree, sausages, and Palatoy tri-logos all have in common?
Isn't this a family panel?
Of course. Well, this might take a while, but there's a method to this madness. So if you've been collecting, so if you like 2D, let's try that one more time. If you like 2D items, proof sheets, paperwork, things like that, it's one of the coolest finds in the past 10, 15 years. So a few years back, Britain's super collector and farthest from promoter David Tree, see in there? No? Okay.
It didn't come.
It's okay.
Doesn't like you.
No. He was approached by someone that said that they had a Trilogo sheet of proofs or card backs, wasn't sure. So he, of course, followed it up immediately, and he went to visit the guy, and he had discovered that the sheet, while it was a little rough, and when I would say a little rough, I mean like Darren's English, you'll see.
Not that rough.
Oh. But the guy had been stored in his loft, and in addition to having it stored in his loft, prior to that, he had had it pinned up on his wall with just thumbtacks when he was a kid. The gentleman's father had been working at a sausage factory.
Which is what the Swedes' room is after like 2 a.m.
Is it true? Absolutely. He had gotten it from the original printer who was using the Trilogo sheets as protective sleeves for some other items that they were delivering to the sausage factory. It's amazing when you think about what they were sending this in. Just protective sheets. So while it was an error and probably should have been disposed of, the printer actually just started using they're using the hose spool, we believe, as just packing materials until it ran out.
Sausages,
To wrap sausages.
So how
and
many
other things.
sausages do you think would fit in the proof sheet?
One large one, maybe?
All right, enough with the sausage party.
Yeah, exactly. So the father had known that he had loved Star Wars, so he brought it home for him for this full sheet. While that makes him a hell of a dad, of course, because, I mean, my dad was bringing me 1985 Topps baseball card packs.
Which are worth like $5.
Probably $4 too much. Yeah, pretty much worthless. So he does get the Father of the Year award for sure, but when you think about what this sheet has gone through, we're talking, first of all, the printing company makes the error. Instead of disposing it, sends it to a sausage company. Father borrows the piece from the sausage company to give to his son. Son uses it, pushes pins on it, leaves it for his entire childhood, then stores it in his loft for 13 years. And then for it to be ends up being rooted in the hands of Mr. Tree is pretty amazing that a piece like this could have went that long when it really should have just been disposed of. David's now built some relationships with that printing industry, so I'm not allowed to talk about the sausage company name. Doesn't want anybody coming in and backdooring him on it. So, yeah.
That joke wrote itself.
Yeah, okay, that might have went wrong a little bit. That was not practiced. And even though there's a possibility he might find some down the road, it's pretty unlikely that anyone will pop up, especially ones that had meats wrapped in it when you think about it. So finalizing the deal, I'm going to talk to you a little bit how it ended up in my hands. This is going wrong.
Wrap it up, man.
Yeah, I know.
It's done.
So right around 2014, 2015, David was telling me about finding this proof, and this was just one of the most amazing finds if you're a Trilogo collector. If you like proofs, it really is bringing things in because not a lot of paletoy proofs have ever been discovered. So it was a real interesting thing. Printing errors, anything like that had been discovered, so it was quite a find. So what had happened was I had, of course, asked him, hey, interested in selling? And he's like, no, never. That's not going to happen. Maybe a couple months later, I would ask again. A couple months later, ask again. And it just kept going through that process, and he didn't really have any interest in selling. And then we were getting ready to go to Celebration in London, and a couple of my friends who had known that I really wanted to get that piece, they kind of were telling me David's really interested or really thinking about selling it. So of course, as Celebration opened up, I went beelined right to David, and we started talking about it. And we negotiated for 3 days, and then finally we arm wrestled for it. Fortunately, I'm a lot stronger than he is. And I got it for him. And at that point, it was really it was the highest price I'd ever paid for one single item for a toy, proof sheets. But getting home, now that was going to be the real complicated issue. Because at the end of the day, I was getting ready to go on holiday with my wife for another 2 weeks and travel Europe. So I wasn't going to lug a 5x5 proof sheet all around Europe and try to bring it without it getting ruined. So we had to try to figure out how we were going to get it home. I will say dealing with the Postal Service in Europe really kind of sucks. I'm not sure if anyone's had the pleasure of doing that, but they're no help. They'll talk to you on the phone and give you no answers. So we could never figure out a way to get it, so we kept trying to UPS, Express, everything, and nobody could do it, especially if it was $3,000, $4,000. So finally, a friend jumped in, Tom Derby came in and helped with the shipping logistics and finally got it back to stateside. So, it took me about several more months to drink away the pain on this. Fortunately, my friends at Celebration, they were able to help. Yeah, still been pain in my chest and in my wallet. Yeah, seemed like it was no big deal. And right around the time I was handing over all that money. And this is what I'll say about this hobby. You know, this hobby is really, really about building relationships.
And the stuff. Don't
Yeah,
forget,
and the
don't
stuff.
forget the stuff.
This is-
The stuff, you have to
absolutely the stuff as well. But you know, you're not going to be able to. You can't be in the back type of collector and not really be out there talking to other people, having friends, coming to celebrations, things like this, or either other social events. Because if you don't do that, I would never have had I never would have had a chance to own this Grail piece. And I would say a lot of the pieces, especially some of the stuff Ben and Darren are going to talk about, exact same reason. Oh, almost on time. So just want to thank everybody. I do say, if this is your first celebration, come again. It's a great time. Get to the networking events, especially to the different states that have clubs, cities that have clubs. You'll enjoy it. I want to thank my entire panel, in particular Darren. You guys will see the comic release just in a couple minutes.
You don't know what's coming.
You like to use the keys, right?
Oh.
Yeah. You're up.
What's happening?
This won't make you nervous, right?
What's happening?
No, actually, it's helpful.
Okay.
All I reach is enter backspace.
Hey, where are you guys going? You can't get your Star Tots if you leave early.
Is that enough?
Sorry, I didn't mean to kill the room.
No pots for you.
So
No, if
anyway,
you have to
I'm-
leave, go. Sorry.
So anyway, I'm going to talk. I'm not, a little bit about what a Grail is, because I don't think any of us really know. But it's sort of, I guess, something that's one of a kind, or something that you search for or hunt for, and it has different definitions to different people. To me, this is more of a bit of a journey. When I started collecting and moved on to the next levels of thinking more about where the toys were from and the people who made them and the people who were the original creators. And so I always started liking, and I also hang out with very cool people who also were into similar stuff, into pre-production material. And one of the things I was always looking for, one of the things I was always interested in was the unproduced line of the unproduced lines of droids and Ewoks. So the Ewoks and droids were the last lines that were actually produced by Kenner. And the unproduced lines were after the lines were canceled, secondary to the fact that Kenner was not able to keep up with sales at that point. They were essentially canceling the entire line. This is actually pages that were from the Toy Fair catalog from 1986 that demonstrated those lines. And so if you look at the top two lines, you'll see figures that were released, those drab green figures, which were a whole bunch of things called Dulaks from a cartoon that nobody watched, and they chose to pick the lamest looking characters from that series, and two sort of like versions of Wicked and another Ewok. So there was a reason why these things didn't sell. Unfortunately, the next line was a lot more colorful and a lot more interesting, but more importantly, it was sort of the end of this magic Kenner time when we went from that early bird set all the way to the very end, and these were the figures that didn't make it. And they were really nicely made, and they were changing with the times, and they were like moving on to these colorful different sculpts that were really very cartoonish in nature and fun to see. And those are the bottom two lines you see on that page. So you'll notice characters like Morag. She's actually one of our female characters. We always say that there aren't that many vintage female characters, and here we have Morag the Witch. you know, and then we have Bondo. Bondo is a character that I sort of bonded with. He was my favorite. He was, this is a guy, I looked at this character and I bonded with Bondo. I saw a guy here, I was around, at this point, this was around 2004, and I lost my hair and I was getting fat. And I saw, and I saw this guy and I said, I like this guy. And he was smiling, you know, and I like to laugh, and I just said, that he's like, you know, this guy is, you know, it's me, and it's my muse. So
Yeah, I'm sick.
yeah,
I'm the sick one.
you are actually. I know things about you. But anyway, so so I was like, oh, maybe someday I'll be able to get one of those cool pieces. And back then it was around 2005, so prototypes were cool and everybody was starting to get into them. But they weren't that well known. And there weren't that many people. There were still like 9 people, and we still did live with our parents at that point. And there was this magical, mythical place, like in Camelot, called the Earth in Cincinnati. A place that you could just go on the internet and, I don't know, order a prototype. A pre-production prototype of a Kenner piece, a piece of magic, one of the original pieces that were needed to make all those toys that we all fell in love with throughout the years. And you could just buy it, and here's one of my receipts for a Bondo head, which was that piece I bought when I fell in love with the guy. And this is a first shot stage, and this stage is almost production in level. It would be a production type plastic piece right before it was painted. Of course, this never made it to the stores, but this toy made it so close to being produced that there were actually plastic figures made for this. The toy was well liked by a lot of the Kenner employees. In fact, a lot of these pieces were kept on people's desks. And it was just a fun line of characters, and everybody always loved Star Wars over there. So a lot of these pieces did survive. And I was able to pick this up. And what was cool is I was looking through my paperwork, and I tried to save most of it, or at least I did back then. I gave up a long time ago. But back then, here's a certificate of authenticity from the Earth Collectible Toy Mall. Lovely people, and they're still there. They now sell products to help collect toys and stuff like that, but they don't sell anything else anymore like this. But they used to have ads to local Kenner employees to come by and be able to sell stuff if they found it over there. And one of the things they came across was this Bondo head. So I ordered that for $150, I think. It was $150 back then. And I could see the rest of the receipt. It has things like a Luke X-Wing gun for $350 and a Luke Skywalker saber, C8. And they always graded nicely, too, for $7. At the time, which seemed like a lot, and I'd buy a prototype, too. It was like just shopping. And I'd check it every other day, and things would come in. In any event, here he was. This was my first guy, and I'm like, okay, this was one of those pieces that really put me into that level of collecting, something I really wanted to.
How did it make you feel, Yehuda, to have that in your hands?
It feels like a hard piece of plastic with sharp edges. Anyway, so this is the way. So this is a general outline of how the toy making process is. Initially, there's a sculpt. The sculpt can be made out of multiple things, and it's an idea in the toy sculptor's head about what to use, whether it's wax or acetate or clay, to actually produce the toy. Well, after that comes a step that I was always intrigued with, and this is really a big part of, what I will be showing in a few seconds, is the silicone mold. And this is the stage where you're able to take that sculpt, make a silicone mold, which you're able to finally produce prototype hard copies. Those hard copies are used for multiple things, including painting the hard copies and being able to use those painted hard copies to create a lot of pictures that are needed to make the different types of productions at like Toy Fair. They are also used as well to make the steel molds, which is the next stage, which were then used to make the first shot plastic toys, and then finally production figures. In 2015, I was really lucky. I was able to get a whole painted figure. This was one that was probably used in advertising material. It came with the tools it should have come with. But on May 2nd, we were able to find the molds where that hard copy was made. And that's me and Rob sitting over there in front of the...
Hey, Rob.
Rob,
Hey, Rob.
baby.
Hey, Rob.
And we were able to go over to one of the Kenner employees' houses. He uncovered some of these molds, and if you look closely, you'll see somewhere in the middle those two little ears on top of that bald head, and that is Bondo silicone mold. So this is what it looks like up close, and you can see from this, every single hard copy was made just like it would be for every figure. And you'll also, you also can see how detailed it really is. You could also, and this is what's used to make hard copies, ultimately every figure. This is a picture of the hard copy that was actually made in that mold, and the head taken off and fit into the mold once again where it came from. And here it is displayed with the coin that would have been produced with, along with the first shot, and with that silicone mold in front of it. Yay. So that's it.
What was it like going to that employee's house knowing what he had? Were you feeling excited or bored or?
I wasn't bored. It's like seeing any other human being. First of all, nice person, nice people. And you certainly don't want to look like you're a fanboy, and you don't want to say, hey man, what was it like working at Kenner? Tell me, please. So you're just talking nicely. And these are things that they cared enough about to keep, to hold on to. So when we were able to get this stuff, it was pretty amazing, but you respect the person, and you're buying something that's sentimental, and you get through it. And you try your best to get it out of their hands as quickly as possible before they change their mind and realize how much they love it.
Or it goes up another 10,000.
Yeah, and then you explain to them, remember that place in Florida you guys wanted to move to? Sell me this and you might be able to go there. And then you come home with it.
Darren.
Hiya. Okay, so my chapter of Grail Stories is entitled Tri-Logo Treasure. I'm a completist collector. I like to collect all production figures, every cardback, every movie. The Tri-Logo line is one of my favorite lines to collect, but they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, so why have I got an accordion of the rarest Tri-Logo figure? It's an interesting story. I really dig the Tri-Logo line because you can get nearly every figure on the card back. There's some art that's unique to the line. And the clear bubbles, of course, because when we get the Return of the Jedi, the big problem is with most of the card backs and the sealed mint on cards is the yellow bubble problem. And you don't seem to have this problem on Tri-Logo, so visually, they look very, very nice. So from being an unwanted, becoming very collectible, the Tri-Logo line has went from zero to hero. Indeed, it was dumped in the US in huge amounts to bargain bins and KB toys in the mid to late 80s, and generally went unnoticed and unloved by most collectors until recently.
So, show of hands, who actually understands anything he's saying?
Really?
Oh, that's pretty decent. That was
Better than me.
Okay.
I was on the over-under. I lost that one.
What a polite group of people.
All right.
Liars!
All right. Okay. So, but most collectors found out quickly that towards the end of the run, it gets very expensive and difficult to find the final few mint on cards before General Medine.
What?
Is it?
I believe it's pronounced Maydeen.
General Medine.
That's what he said.
Maydeen.
I remember reading the Meccano, the Tri-Logo book, and the rarity factor of General Medine.
Maydeen, dude. Maydeen, dude.
General Medine.
You are
Maydeen, dude.
You're the world's expert in what? In Medine?
General Medine.
Didn't we discuss this with your speech therapist, Darren? I think we all agreed
Crisis,
that it was
dude.
actually Maydeen.
It's all about Maydeen.
Maydeen.
General Medine.
Yeah. Try one more time.
General Medine.
Talk like you're English.
May like the month.
Probably because the Return of the Jedi version was peg-warming so hard, producing thousands of the Tri-Logo variants seemed a folly in the 1980s, so an unwanted figure becomes rare by default. So when I started the run, I probably didn't intend to finish it, but I got lucky with some of the rarer ones and made contact with a black hole collector who sold me a Tri-Logo Jawa and Death Star droid. He'd become important later on. So as I got down to the last few, it became apparent that I might get at least close. So I started contacting my fellow collectors, especially French ones, as most, if not all, the Medines originated in France. Okay? Is that okay?
It's closer.
Okay. And I know I made many UK guys aware. If you have any leads, please let me know. Two things are important. A war chest. If you're in the hunt, you have to be ready to mobilize and move quickly to seal any potential deal. Having a cash reserve is very, very useful and important because timing is everything. If you drag your heels, another buyer can come in and score the piece from under your nose. Secondly, strong bonds and good relationships. If you conduct yourself with manners and respect in deals, it always stands you in good stead. Sellers will want to deal with you if you're a trustworthy buyer.
Did you say strong bones?
Strong what now?
Strong bones?
Strong bonds?
Bonds.
Bonds?
Was it trombone? Did you say trombone?
Trombones?
James Bond?
You lost me at Medine, dude.
I had nearly given up hope.
But hope is all we've got.
I was trying to shake a Medine from somewhere.
Stop. Okay, everybody, can you please help us? Medine. Thank you. Wait, what'd you say?
Whoa,
Medine.
Said help.
You're confusing him. He's Irish.
Okay. But the collector who had sold me the Jawa and Death Star droid made contact. I'm thinking of selling my Medine. I've been offered deals from Europe and the US, but I'd like to offer it to you. So my fellow Tri-Logo expert, Joe O'Brien, got the same lead and told me to make a move, the war chest. But the price was a sticking point. It was the single AFA graded 85 Tri-Logo Medine on the planet. And as a one-of-a-kind item, it commanded a hefty sum. So whilst I was trying to gather my funds to make the deal work, my buddy Andy Davies came in. He was looking for the AFA 85 for his Tri-Logo run. So we made the deal that he would trade me his 80 plus cash to allow me to bag his Medine.
Nice.
And he would end up with the AFA 85. It seemed like the ideal situation, but the seller, who was notoriously difficult, had to do everything on his terms. And I had to make sure he was on board, so I suggested a personal handover. I'd have to fly to meet him in London and bring the total in cash to do the deal. So I met the guy. Nobody knew him. He was a black hole collector. He didn't have a Facebook profile. Everything had to be done through email. So I booked the flight, stepped off the plane to meet a stranger, and bagged the prize. I sat in the coffee bar, and lo and behold, the guy arrives, and we do the deal. I haven't spoken to him since, seen him on social media. It was a really strange situation. But I go and meet Andy, who has the graded 75. With his 75, the 80, and the 85, we now have the trifecta. So we took the opportunity to photograph the rarest Tri-Logo figure in the 3 ascending grades, and the rest is history. I get an incredible feeling recalling the triumph of completing the run and the journey that took me to my Tri-Logo General Medine.
Medine.
You didn't do any of your slides.
Okay.
Hold on, real quick. We're gonna do his pictures.
Okay. Okay, so
War chest.
war chest.
There you go.
Yeah. So look at these two
In
reprobates.
Ireland, first you say everything, and then afterwards you do
and then have
all
to go
the
show and
pictures.
tell. Yeah, networking. Yes, there's networking with them boys.
Ready?
Yeah.
This will be a review.
This is
for
Andy
everybody.
Davies and me in Essen celebration. 2 idiots wearing Tri-Logo t-shirts. Hey.
And this is the most famous swag getting ready to
Yeah,
come
and
out.
this led to the swag item, which is the General Medine Battle Beard, which I made and gave away in celebration. I give some away here as well. So if anybody wants one, they can email me. And here's the piece of resistance. This is Dermot Crowley, General Medine himself, with my battle beard. General Medine with my own battle beard with Jason Smith. So it worked out well. Thank you very much.
Great. You were awesome.
That's the fan.
So,
Do you need this? Do you need this?
You can't take it.
Okay.
which part?
You just have to look.
Shall I move?
Right there.
I could go.
can move.
Let me go down.
Back was it?
Sorry.
Yeah, you want to switch?
Don't get so excited, man. Let me.
There's
pass.
been confusion before with this guy.
Does anybody need my seat?
Yeah.
Oh, you have a script over there, don't you?
Where are you more comfortable?
Oh, I'm not comfortable now.
Okay.
Let me
Not
stay
in this
here.
room. Okay.
So the word lemon might seem a bit incongruous in my title here, but please don't switch off just yet. There'll be no mention of the word sausage or Maydeen. So I began collecting Star Wars toys around 1981, and I discovered the archive pretty much straight away. Now I'm not particularly clever, so
Right?
yeah, well, I immediately printed out all the pages of the archive and made a book from it. And then started a degree in journalism as well, which, kind of further emphasizes the irony there. But,
So you can rip it.
sorry.
No, I got you.
But the archive was pretty much a springboard for me to dive into the world of rare, exotic, and practically unobtainable items as my hobby tastes evolved. And I kind of, from afar, generated this blind faith in the website, which led me to vintage prototypes and the kind of rarities a guy in Australia, pretty much had never seen, let alone held. And that brings me to the following picture, which is already on the screen. Sorry, I've just kind of...
That was really a great job. Thank you. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
thanks.
Excellent. So down under, first we show all the pictures, then we talk about everything. It's a little different. But Ireland is exactly on the opposite side of Australia. There, thank you.
The
New
toilet
Zealand,
water also
yes,
spins back to
yes.
front there too. So
Very good.
Aren't you from a penal colony?
Well, Darren's running some classes on how to build self-esteem after the panel. If anyone wants to come along, I know I'm heading in there too. Anyway, the Rebel Commando acetate sculpt
It's only one.
is pretty bloody awesome, actually. So to give you an idea of what a sculpt is, it's the 3D Big Bang moment for an action figure, or at least it was before the arrival of 3D printing, which kind of seems odd given what I used to do with archive pages, which was kind of made redundant as well, I guess. But I digress. The Rebel Commando is particularly special to me. Its creator, Bill Lemon, is my favorite sculptor, and he produced everything he did in a hard plastic material known as acetate, which is really unforgiving and difficult to work with, which, to dumb it down, is a bit like having a conversation with Darren about General Maydeen.
Really?
Now, what makes this lemon piece really special to me is that the Rebel Commando action figure was one of the final 3 figures that I bought from a discount bin during the early stages of Power of the Force. And at that time, it also started to become really awkward around women. So it's kind of made me forget that if I focus more on the figure itself.
So toys over women?
No pictures of women, but could you please just click right there? Thank you. Which doesn't really bring me to this, but this is my beautiful second Grail piece. It's the original photo art for the 2-1B blister card, which was used by Kenner in 1981 to master the packaging for every 2-1B package ever made. And to explain what photo art is to those of you who don't know, it's important because it represents the starting point for 99% of all vintage Star Wars packaging. And it's the basis for what you see on the boxes and blister cards of all the toys made from 1977 to 85 or so. And, without boring you with minutiae, like Yehuda did earlier on, not only is it one of the most highly airbrushed pieces of cardback photo art, the figure it depicts was also sculpted by Bill Lemon. And I kind of am boring you with minutiae here, but 2-1B was originally referred to by Kenner during the planning stages as droid number 2, which makes him sound a little bit harder edged and appeals to Todd's sense of humour, if you think of the number 2. But however, both his artwork and the Rebel Commando were owned by other people who really loved them as much as I did. And so what identified these holy grails going back to about 2000 or so, it didn't really help me because they're owned by the people. So given that both these pieces were actually owned by the collectors who loved them as much as I did, I was kind of forced to sit down then and figure out what my resources were and what I had that would help me get to them and kind of impress upon these people that I wanted them as much. And I went through a bit of a checklist in my mind that was roughly like this, and it would have been nice to have this on the overhead, but I wasn't prepared like Yehuda was. He actually has a medical degree, I think, so...
He's a doctor,
I believe so. So it kind of went like this. So it kind of went like energy bills and mortgage aren't the negotiable. Work, my boss would understand, but I don't really like him anyway. Then self-care,
doesn't like you either.
Self-care, which really wasn't on my radar, and food, which I quickly worked out you can live a long time without. In all seriousness, though, by taking a look at my resources, I was able to kind of start to build a pathway towards my grails. So the next thing I did was, as the picture kind of explains, is pick up the phone. Or for anyone born a little after 2000, that's actually a phone, that thing there. It's like your cell phone, but it's like got a rotary dial on it. You need to pick the handle up and you can call people with it. Anyway, so I pick up the phone and I start making calls, which, as others have pointed out, is kind of the way that you network and you get to pieces in the hobby. And, I made sure that I spoke to collectors and dealers around the world, and I even made the odd call to a wrong number. But that was also helpful because it kind of taught me that you could have conversations with anyone, and people are generally happy to talk, and that gave me a lot of confidence talking to collectors and dealers, ironically enough. And on occasions, actually, just go to the next slide, which is already up, I might add. Thanks, Todd. Todd's reading my script and he's reading a little better than I am. So I love John Candy in this movie, and I love this movie, period. But it's kind of become the narrative of my life that I've taken trains, planes, and automobiles to find my grails. I started out with taking trips to the local comic store, and it quickly became taking trips across the city, then across the state, and finally across the country, which is, if you've ever seen a map of Australia, it's pretty wide. There's thousands of miles between. You know that, Darren? There's thousands of miles between the coasts.
How many sausage factories did you visit?
Sorry, how many what?
Sausage factories along the way.
Well, it's difficult to say, like every city pretty much has a sausage factory from what you've told me.
Yeah.
And I understand where you live too, Brian, there's even more than that, is that right?
Everybody stop.
Okay.
It's okay to sometimes put the train back on the tracks.
To break it up,
No.
Just to break it up a bit, I'll kind of tell you a bit of an anecdote. So, along the way with those journeys, a lot of odd things happened, but I was once sitting, in a lounge room kind of negotiating for some items, and I noticed that the gentleman I was talking to had a dog there that didn't really seem to be liking me that much. In fact, it was growling a bit, it was kind of curling its lip, and maybe even frothing a bit too. And, given it was this guy's dog, I kind of bent
Was it
down.
a dingo?
To be honest, I don't remember rightly. I was too busy thinking how I might make friends with it, and you would obviously never make friends with a dingo, so I guess the answer would be no.
So we're out of time, so if you could speak a little bit more about your Grail and a little bit less about dogs.
That's Todd's kitchen sink, so let's kind of get along there.
Every party needs a party pooper.
So look, a lot of obstacles presented themselves in the way to my Grails, and it wasn't always just the dog or the travel.
Tony's going to shoot me. I can see him staring daggers at me.
Okay, we might just skip past this as well and just hit the next one. Okay, so this is not the Grail that I was searching for. This is another Grail that we could probably go back to that one, Todd, if that's okay. A lot of the steps that I was about to talk about kind of led me to these pieces, which are really wonderful. Those are the original wood patterns of the Millennium Falcon, and I'd learned a lot I actually learned a lot you would have understood if I'd actually talked about those previous slides, but let's go along to the next one.
Come on, talk about the previous.
So this is a bit of a non sequitur. As you kind of meander on the path towards your Grail, every so often something will present itself that looks like a step backwards or sideways, but actually leads to your Grails. And so this piece, dealer Tom Derby was kind enough to hook me up with the thought in mind that it might actually help me trade for one of my Holy Grails, which is kind of what happened. And so I traded this Romba Ewok and Protomold and First Shot for the 2-1B photo art. Everyone's going to clap and get excited because I landed my Grail, yeah. And right around the same time, I actually managed to also trade something for the Rebel Commando Acetate Sculpt. And why this kind of hasn't made that much sense, it did in my mind before I came out here and started speaking. And I just want to thank everyone for coming. And don't forget, there's a couple of star tots that people will put in your hand on the way out the door.
And also, if you want to keep talking about them, because there are a lot of great more stories to be told, go on down to the collector social room, a couple more down, and finish up the stories. Thank you, everybody.
Round of applause.
Have a good one.